folks, welcome to this exciting video where once again you join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland here. And today we're down in the lowlands here of Angus, Scotland, agricultural land. And today we've come to document a castle remains. I have been here one time before and documented it. About Highlander 87, who's joining us today on today's adventure, he's never been to it, so it's cool to bring him here and show him the history as well. So just check out this landscape we're in today, folks. It's just incredible. The sun's shining and the castle we're going to is actually hidden within this forest in front of us. It's a small gathering of trees at the end of the field, a piece of wild land behind this dry stone dyke. And it's amazing there's places like this, historical places in Scotland, just hidden all over the landscape. This particular castle was built, must have been in the 1400s or early 1500s, and it was actually destroyed by King James VI in 1593. So you can imagine his army marching on this location in anger and busting through the castle walls over the moat. There's actually an interesting detail of this castle, folks. It had a moat, and it's cool to come and document what's left of that history. Like, who even would have thought that? A moat. That's why I think it's older than some of the 1500s castles and stuff that we've explored over the years. Sometimes different time periods in history, they had different strategic defences of the castle, and for a long time a moat was an excellent way of slowing an attacking force. But then once there was like cannons and things to fire over, that's when it was a game changer. They could destroy castle walls from a distance. This is just mad, folks. Look at this. It's the wee wall line here of the complex, the castle complex, and imagine the stone structure here looming above our heads originally. Maybe these dry stone dikes are actually constructed from the castle stones, which must have been all around this area. Wow, this is so cool. All this massive mound we're on now is castle remains, and there is details of it and stonework left over here to document. Round outside, roughly where that wall is, I believe would have been the moat. Obviously the landscape now changed so much for agriculture. I'm going to clean the lens on the camera, folks, and I'll get back to you here. So let's get into the remains here, folks, and see what is left of the history. Think of the stonework and the people that used to walk about in these buildings when the castle was in its prime. This room here was part of a massive structure, a defensive structure, which key people back then would have stayed in. And just think how long ago these stones were laid. It's just mind-blowing history on the channel, and credit to it, the way it stood up to all the years it's existed, even through the battles. At one time people may have even hidden in here at a time of fear when they were getting invaded. Well, let's head on round. At this time of year in Scotland, the sun's at a low angle and it's creating that shadow. And then down here it's got a wee underground room, which I believe may be actually an old well. Some castles had a private kind of little well within the grounds, and even if they were under invasion or siege, they would have fresh water. Because if they had a water source out with the castle, they would have struggled at a time of battle when they were trying to stay low key or hidden within the building, using its defences to their max. And I think at one time there had been a wee corridor with like a spiral stair going down here, because down underneath these leaves there's actually still remains of the stairs, and we'll take a look at that in 2 seconds. Check out the remains here where the door frame has been, and just think of the castle above our heads at this point. We would be inside the castle, and you can see the rear wall line there of the original castle. Wow, sometimes these old castles also had so much little rooms and buildings. I theorise this could have been a deep well that's just been backfilled with the amount of debris from the castle. Also, it could have been a small storage room, but nowadays most likely the home to animals I've got the torch on right now, folks, check it out. Look at that stonework on the back wall. It's almost like a little vent, maybe originally for the fresh keeping of stuff in here. Maybe even gunpowder or whatever they were using if they had cannons. It's interesting history. Maybe back at that time they didn't use that though. It's just mind blowing, folks. I often try and imagine the folk that had been walking up and down here when the castle was in perfect condition. That scene right there is just breathtaking. Ancient Scottish castle. It's fun to come back to show Highlander this location, and also just to document it on the channel. Some of my viewers now won't have even seen this previous adventures. Down below here, look, there's one of the original stone steps. There's so much leaves it's hard to even dig it out, but look, it's got earth and soil, but the history remains under it buried. And it's like a scar or skeleton of the history, destroyed at such an ancient time, 1593 by King James VI. And you can just imagine them coming and burning places like this down and destroying them, flattening them so they couldn't be used again. And it's such an ancient time in history. Think how long's passed, nights and days. This castle's just sat within the forest, degrading, decaying. And it is interesting. There's some old black and white pictures online, but at that time there's no trees or anything growing around here, so even within the last 100 years this place has changed like so much. And obviously it's only in the last couple of 100 years that you can actually document things like this on film with photographs and nowadays video. And it's so fun to come to these places and just see it, and the way those stairs lead up through that passage under the forest, it's almost like a fairy tale castle environment. And it is interesting to think about the... Yeah, those would have been the cellars, low down. Think how tall it was. Must have been an absolutely huge structure. Because underneath some other castles we visited, like Vane, they've got arches as well like that. Some old Scottish castles got used as quarries so that the stone would be taken away and used to build newer farms or buildings in the lands of Scotland. That's how sometimes there's not as much stone sitting as what you would think. But I believe most of this hill here may be stones from the castle, because we're quite high above the level of the forest floor. Also, if there had been a moat, it shows how much has been filled in of that moat over the years. Maybe the moat was right down at the side of the burn's edge and it came around. And because they might have even had a little field or a croft kind of area within the boundary lines of the outer moat line. Sometimes there was little strategic defensive positions as well around the castle that they were probably always on watch at certain times in history. You can imagine when King James VI was rolling up here, like what the castle occupants were thinking. At one point they must have just said, Ken, we're having to get out of here, or they might have not even been able to get to that stage. They might have just been completely destroyed. And that's the other side of this history that you forget about when you see an incredible stone structure. At one time it was like the front line to one of the biggest wars that was going on at that time and on the world, anywhere in the world. Look at that, the history leads on under there. This was the front line of a battle at a certain time. Imagine the noise and the carnage when the bricks and the stones were landing. Nowadays a peaceful forest, so it's easy to forget that. And just look at this back wall, the rear window. Maybe at one time flames billowing out of here, black stains from the soot above it. The hundreds of years that pass, all that details are gone. And that's interesting to imagine the whole aspect of these places like that when we're exploring them. The character of that as well, it is just special. The old stone lintel, but the way the moss and stuff's growing on there. Different colours of moss. Wow, what a place. It's a wee bit of Scottish history just hidden within a forest. Yeah, they've definitely all like dug right down. That shows how much stuff's built up on the outside. Because the room on the inside's so much deeper. And that's why I think a lot of this is probably debris. The land around here's just changed so much. Yeah, the moat may have come along there. It is interesting. It is a mad old construction from real historical times in Scottish history. It's almost like there's been other outlines here, maybe the other boundary wall of the castle, because often they were like a big square at that time. And look, there's definitely rooms here, or parts of a building. Look at this, that's stone there which is built. Limestone mortar, like we've seen with a lot of other structures and projects that we've visited over the years. Abandoned historical wonders use limestone mortar often. Made in lime kilns like we've seen. So this could have even been years later. Somebody maybe had a wee building on this site as well. There could be other history because so many hundreds of years has passed. You can just imagine there was maybe a caretaker or somebody used these two arches as a bit of a shed. So let's make our way away from this little historical wonder, hidden in the forest. An ancient Scottish castle. Look, there's remains of something here with wall lines. I keep noticing more and more these walls have continued through the forest, and it is sad that the castle has been lost over the years. Highlanders down here. What route did you come off the edge of there? Straight down, folks. You know how it is on the adventures. They're always the realest.
I'm thinking this wall was almost the same as that wall.
Yeah. I wonder if all that wall's been built since the castle. At that side there's actually an old abandoned quarry and a big deep hole. It's quite a mad bit of land. The first time I came and tried to find the castle, I ended up over there exploring, like didn't even know where I was going. And then I found it here eventually. And it is incredible to come back today. I forgot how cool it was. That little underground bit with the stairs, the way the rocks is mossy. You can just imagine them running up and down there, doing their whatever they were doing, maybe getting food or supplies. Could have been a well, because Bagavies Castle at Dundee, we were in one little corner room like that, and apparently it was a deep well originally, but nowadays you can't even tell because often it's filled up or even just capped with stones. Below your feet can be like 100-foot deep hole that you don't even know about. But it's been cool today, folks. We've seen castle remains, and that's what we love on this channel, and the story of Scotland, things that went on, good or bad, places that's ruined and forgotten, and historical stories that's nearly forgotten. You know how it is, folks. I'm ending it here. Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye from me, goodbye from Highlander 87. We'll catch you very soon for the next adventure, wherever we end up going.